Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening even, from wherever in the world you are joining us from. Welcome to our Wiley Online Library training on unlocking the value of Wiley scientific journals and making the most out of the platform, out of your subscription. We have a really exciting training planned for you today. I appreciate you being here, your willingness to give up an hour out of your day. My name is Мэри Helen. I am on the customer training team here at Wiley. And we work with colleagues, we work with subject matter experts to create and deliver training resources for our end users so that you can get the most out of our different research products. So a few housekeeping items before we get started. This session is being recorded. So be on the lookout for that in about 24 hours. You'll receive a link in your inbox. You'll also receive a certificate with that email acknowledging your attendance today, the fact that you were here if you need to present that to anyone, has proof of any continuing ed hours, etc. You are welcome to, of course, take your own notes, but I've linked the slides that I'm using today in the handout section of your GoToWebinar pane, your GoToWebinar window. They're in a PDF format. I encourage you to download those. You're welcome to reference them back, share with any colleagues that might have missed today, but encourage you to download those. And you can raise any questions that you have in the question box of your GoToWebinar window. Obviously, we're not face-to-face, but I'm going to be asking you as well to put some answers in the questions box. But of course, any questions that you have as well. So a note on GoToWebinar, we have the images here. You can see the questions is kind of below the handouts. You can pop it out if you want to have a separate window, and then you download the handouts kind of linked there as well. So let us know if you're having any issue. We're happy to help. I'm here with a colleague. And like I said, I'll be stopping to answer some questions throughout the session. So with that, our first just kind of exercise in using the questions pane, where are you joining us from today? Please type it in the question box, and I'm going to read them aloud. Just while we're waiting for everyone to join: Portugal, Turkey, Greece, Grand Rapids, Michigan. Wow, so many different places. We have the US. Hi from Greece. Hello. Chicago, Illinois. Thank you so much. South Africa, the UK. A few folks from Portugal. That's awesome. Brazil, India, Turkey. I think maybe I already said, but Melbourne, Florida. Great. Well, thank you so much for your answers. This is super cool to know we have such a global audience today. And that we are sort of unified here on this webinar. That is exciting. I am from North Carolina, USA. Oh, from Ghana, that's great. I'm on the East Coast of the States. So this is our state tree, our state flower, and our state bird, the cardinal, and the dogwood. Sorry, I didn't say it, but yeah, happy to have such a wide variety of countries represented today. So the next thing I'm going to ask you to do is answer a poll before we get started. You'll see it on your screen soon. The poll is completely anonymous, just for your information. But we're going to know, what is your role? How would you best describe your role in your institution? This is going to help us inform maybe how you use Wiley Online Library. Again, you should see this on your screen. Completely anonymous. So we'll give everybody a few moments. Great, I see some folks answering them in the question box as well. That's awesome. If you don't mind also making sure your answer is represented by selecting it on your screen. Okay, we're slowing down. I'll give everybody a few more seconds. Okay, thank you so much for voting. We can go ahead and share the results. So it looks like we have 10% of our audience is a librarian or on the library staff. That's great. Most of you all today appears are researchers and authors. That is great. Definitely going to be useful for you all as you are researching, as you are conducting any reading throughout your time with Wiley Online Library. 29% student, that's great. 13% faculty or an instructor role, and 5% other. So a lot of different perspectives, just like a lot of different global perspectives, also a lot of different career perspectives today, which is really exciting. So thank you so much for voting. I see maybe we have one more question. Oh, Cuba and Russia too. Yes, thank you so much. So thank you for providing that insight, sharing where you're from. Let's jump into the agenda and kind of the bulk of what we're going to talk about today. So we'll talk about the content, the navigation, what we can find in Wiley Online Library. We'll focus on kind of everything that we can find. So that's journals, books, and reference works. We'll kind of look at navigating the platform, accessing that content, as well as the benefits. You'll find it to be, or I hope you'll find it to be, a very user-friendly product. It's designed to be quite straightforward. So then we'll do a live demo in the platform, whether you've used it before or not. If you have the access, if you have the ability to go ahead and search along with me, I encourage you to do so. I'll also be asking you, I'm asking a lot of you today, so I appreciate you being along for the ride, but I'll be asking you for search suggestions. But we'll be looking at running it basic and advanced searching, filtering those results, accessing content, just some things you're going to want to do in the platform, right? Citing, downloading, sharing the content, searching within a book or within a journal, as well as using favorites and how to make the most out of some of those personalized features in the platform. And then we'll wrap up, again, kind of talking about benefits, where to find helpful resources, and leave some time for Q&A as well. So hopefully this sounds good. Like I said, I'll make pauses throughout for questions as well, but definitely time at the end. So I think we have one more poll. How often do you access research articles as part of your work? Again, kind of laying the groundwork for today, getting to know you all a little bit. If you could please choose, just like you did before, choose an answer on your screen. Excuse me, again, completely anonymous. So same deal, if you don't mind just selecting an answer on your screen. Okay, wrapping up. I see we're slowing down a little bit. Couple more seconds. And that is great. So thank you so much. We'll go ahead and share those results. So 44% daily. That is amazing. I hope that this will be a useful session for you all. I'd be curious to know how much of that you're using Wiley Online Library for. 36% weekly, that's still quite frequent. Again, would love to hear of any challenges you're facing on the platform. 14% monthly, 4% infrequently, and only 1% never. So most of you, it appears, are really doing a lot of day-to-day work with research articles as part of your work. So curious, again, to hear any challenges that you're facing or any perks of using Wiley Online Library that you've found as well. So one more poll. How often do you use Wiley Online Library? Given that, keeping those numbers in mind, how often you access research, how much of that would you say is Wiley Online Library? Again, this is the last poll, I promise, but again, just kind of gauging everyone's familiarity with the platform. Before I assume, also, which I think maybe I have done already, but before I assume, this is, again, same thing, if you'll just answer on your screen. Everybody, a few more moments. Okay, so we're slowing down a bit. we can go ahead and share the results. So thank you again for answering all of those polls. 25% weekly and 27% monthly. That's great. Again, I'd love to hear about any pointers that you use, anything that helped you with the platform. 13% 1 to 2 times per year, and 35% have never used the platform. That is okay. You are in the right place. This training will definitely speak to all levels of experience with the platform. So always love to have fresh eyes in a training as well, to ask questions that maybe some of us haven't thought about in a while. So thank you all again for voting and for being here. Let's go ahead and get into the content and the navigation. Hopefully you can see my screen. Yes, okay. Okay, so the content of Wiley Online Library. This is a very extensive multidisciplinary collection of online resources available, covering a wide range of subjects. So you can think of this platform as the Google of research that Wiley publishes, and you'll find that the screen actually kind of resembles Google, resembles a search engine, that is. So the main components of the platform are, as we kind of said, journals, online books, reference works, the core being Wiley's journal content. So the numbers here we can sort of elaborate on. Over 1,600 peer-reviewed journals, which equates to over 8 million articles, over 20,000 online books, 200 multi-volume references and handbooks, well, over 200 rather, 18 current protocols. These are for folks working in a laboratory setting, as well as 13 databases, also good for those working in a chemistry lab, evidence-based medicine included with those. So quite a wide breadth of content. Again, the sort of bulk, the core being our journal content. So subject coverage, as you browse, you'll see that there is a huge range of topics from agriculture to psychology, and over 126 subcategories, so a lot to be read and utilized. I want to highlight and point out too that you'll see a lot of related content presented to you, and we'll get into that in the live demo, but with recommended readings, all hyperlinked. So very easy to find something similar or related to a particular topic as we're talking about how much content there is. Just keep in mind that it is, once you've found something that you like, that you want to use, there is quite a bit of related reading usually listed with each. So maybe there's a chapter from a book that you like. You'll be immediately able to see citations, references, recommended readings, helping you make the most out of the platform. If you don't see your discipline here, just know that this is kind of a snapshot and not necessarily everything. So some things on navigation. Again, like I said, this is designed to be very user-friendly, very intuitive. I'm logged in here at the top right. So there's a prominent search bar in the middle, some resources linked as well for researchers, librarians, societies, authors, etc. I'm sorry, that's me linked. And then the search bar. So navigation kind of continued. When you scroll down, you'll see these different browsing spaces where you can browse subjects, and then they expand to include kind of subtopics as well. And we'll look at these in the live demo, but a good place to maybe direct students if you're a librarian helping folks with a research paper. Most of you probably already have keywords in mind when you come to the platform, but certainly if you're interested in browsing your field, that could be interesting as well. And then kind of journal titles that are new to Wiley Online Library highlighted toward the bottom as well. So just kind of good browsing things if you are interested. Accessing the content. Again, this is something that we'll get into in the live demo, but you can see quite easy that it's articles and chapters, publications, and if there are any collections related to your search topic, those are listed here as well. If you don't see those, sometimes they're there, sometimes they're not. But all you'll do, right, enter the term, click search. From here, you can filter by publication type, which makes it easier to focus on just journals, just books, whatever you'd like to see. You can focus on the smaller level of the article or the chapter, or you can get into the larger level, the whole book or the whole journal pertaining to your keyword. Again, filtering by date is really useful too. You can do even as recent as the last week for this search, the last month. And after that, you'll simply click into it to access the result of the article or the chapter of your choice. Those were our filters, sorry. Okay, so getting into the live demo, again, I ask of you to please type your topic suggestions in the questions box. I have a few in mind in case, you know, if you don't have any today, that's okay too, but looking out for any topic suggestions. And I ask again that you search along with me if you have the capacity to still engage in the webinar. Maybe you have two screens like I do today, and you can search along with me. So while I am waiting for any tangible interaction, okay, we do have some. Great, these are way more advanced than what I was going to do. So let's see what we can get with these. But first, a note on logging in. The kind of homepage of Wiley Online Library, right? I'm going to log in with my credentials. Depending on your institution's access, you may or may not have to log in. You might connect automatically through a VPN if you're on campus, maybe through a Wi-Fi network on campus. But if you work remotely, like I do, like a lot of us do these days, you might need to do a remote authentication just to make sure you're getting access to everything your institution is subscribed to. If you're not sure, I encourage you to check with your main librarians. They will be the point of knowledge there. I also, maybe your institution doesn't require you to have a login or a personalized kind of username. I still encourage you to do so if you can. That's going to give you full access to all of the features like favorites, saving searches, some things that are kind of specific to you, right? They have to be connected to your username. So this is the homepage, right? Similar from the slide, fairly intuitive interface, user-friendly. Here's our search bar, can't miss it. And then sort of below, we have some different resources that you can browse. As we mentioned, over 1,700 now, excuse me. So I suppose those numbers are subject to change. In the slide, we said 1,600. You can see here, if you're interested in browsing these directly, you can simply click on our over 260 reference works. This maybe isn't the most efficient way to browse, but you certainly can do that. Some resources for researchers, librarians, etc. And then that subject browsing that I mentioned, maybe you're in the humanities, to browse these still quite broad subtopics, right? But from there, you can kind of filter down, maybe refine your search. And then here are the newly added bodies of work to Wiley Online Library. You can certainly browse all these titles. Integrative conservation, for example, this looks like a journal. So I could browse this journal if I wanted to. But let's say we do have a search in mind, and thank you so much for the suggestions. I'm going to read through these. Optimal power flow, that's the first one. And then the last one, sustainability of agricultural value chain. I like that one. Let's do that one. Thank you to Maria. Shout out to Maria. Sustainability of agricultural value chain. So all I will do is come up and start typing. So agricultural. So let's see what this gets. This is a pretty specific search, right? But let's see what we can get here. If any of these titles catch my eye, you can definitely click into those directly. But for now, I'm just going to click the magnifying glass or press enter. Okay, great. So we do have quite a few results. You can see it's still loading, so bear with me there. Okay, so well, there are collections for this, maybe not whole publications, it looks like, but we do have a fair number of articles and chapters, right? So we can see that we can filter by any of these publication types, the publication date, we can even do a date range. Also encourage you, if you would like to focus on open access content, that's super interesting. We could talk for a whole other training session about open access. But any of these subjects too, I'm not sure I pointed these out in the slide, interesting angles perhaps. Maybe we want to talk about this from aquaculture, fisheries, and fish science. We can kind of add this subtopic and narrow down our search even more. Could be interesting. Again, a lot of you probably have your niche areas that you're looking for, but could add some new perspective. And then if you have worked with a journal before, maybe the Journal of Science and of Food and Agriculture, for example, you can filter just to articles published in that journal as well. So one thing I want to show you before we get into a result, and again, encourage you to search along with me, you can refine a search here, and you can also sort, instead of by relevance, by date. Relevance will always be kind of the default means of how things come out. But let's go ahead and refine a search. So if I want to tweak this, maybe to add, let's say this is, quite a few results. Maybe I want to add a line to in the title. Let's use one of our countries today. We're going to shout out Portugal. All dates, I'll leave it there, and I'm going to click search. So this is effectively giving you a little bit more narrow of a search, because we're telling the search engine it now needs to include those publications with Portugal in the title. Okay, so very, very narrow, right? So maybe I'll just do this. I'll just leave Portugal anywhere instead of the title. That was a bit too narrow. So kind of employing a Boolean operator, those of you who are familiar with those. A second line implies the use of the Boolean operator and. Okay, so still quite a few with these, with Portugal anywhere. Still no full publications, that's okay. We'll do another search and see those. But just to show you what that kind of looks like with refining your search instead of starting a full new search. I can also save this search. Maybe you are getting really complicated with a search with multiple lines in your refined search. We can click on Save Search. And this is also where it will subscribe to any alerts related to this search. So when new content is published, becomes available. I'm just going to call this Agriculture in Portugal. And maybe I don't want any emails, any results, any new results emailed to me, that's okay. But maybe just monthly would be nice. So I can click Save Search. And anytime I want to adjust those, I just come to my account and I'll show you where you can manage those alerts. Any alerts or saved searches are going to be down here. So these are kind of old searches, and I can always come when I'm not interested anymore or it's no longer relevant to me and delete them. I can simply click the search to run it again. So we'll just do that. So let's get into a result. I'm also going to go ahead and filter though too. Let's filter by journals. And we'll filter by, let's get into the last month. So super recent here. Here's an original article. This looks interesting. Smallholder farms in the sustainable food transition. So I'm going to go ahead and open this up. So here we are. We have the full text of the journal article available, but you can also download the PDF from up here as well. Print it, access it online, do whatever you would like to do. Under tools, this is where you'll add anything to favorites. That's a super useful tool, as well as exporting a citation. So if you do choose to move forward and use this article in your work, important, of course, to export the citation. If you're tracking the citation, that just means being alerted of any changes to the citation that take place. So, you know, perhaps cited elsewhere as well, anything changes there, you'll be alerted. Related articles, this is kind of what I talked about earlier. We have all of this related reading that, you know, we're in this kind of niche space of agricultural policy, but a lot of interesting related reading in this, excuse me, right-hand gray column. And the information, I can always see the altmetric score and kind of the publication history as well. This is also where you would share this article if you would like, maybe with a colleague. So let's access the full journal, and I want to show you kind of what that looks like. The full journal or the full book, the full body of work will always be located in this right-hand upper corner. So I'm going to go ahead and open that up. This one's called Early View. This is the general format that journals take. You can sign up for email alerts here if you are interested in this journal. Original articles, we can kind of browse these. Those are sort of recent ones. You can subscribe to the journal there. But just to show you too, maybe how we would search within this journal. Let's see, European Comparative and International Environmental Law. So maybe we want to search for emissions. Up here at the top, I'm going to leave this at this journal. I could pop it back down to anywhere and I'd essentially be running a new search, which I don't necessarily want to do. Let's search for emissions in this journal. Okay, great. So it does kind of keep me in this applied filter of this specific journal, but a lot of interesting content on emissions that they have published with. So kind of same case with a book. I want to, maybe we can add, or let's do a new search. I want to get to some of these other suggestions. Optics and additive manufacturing. Let's go with that one. Shout out to Edward. Additive. To see if there are any books that we can do the same thing with, any chapters. Okay, so here we do have full publications related to this. Thank you for the suggestion. So here's a full book. If you do want to access, of course, the full title, the full journal, you can do that here. But same concept with the articles and chapters, if you just want to filter by books. And then we still have quite a few results, but 3D printing of objects, interesting. So here is that chapter. So kind of the same thing, right? Books is a little bit different because you won't have the same picture on the right-hand side, but you'll kind of be informed. It's volume 29, issue 9, and you can browse within the book that way. And then here was the chapter itself. So pretty interesting, pretty user-friendly, again, like I said. Hopefully you have found it to be so. And last, we're going to do an advanced search. So I'm going to take a look again at the suggestions. Oh, I see that we have a question. What exactly do original articles refer to? That is a good question. That means original articles published in the journal. So articles kind of original to the journal. I see what you're saying though, that maybe why do they have to specify original? But I guess that is sort of, these were published in the journal as opposed to like being cited or originally belonging to a different journal. Okay, I'm gonna get into, before we pause, climate change impacts. That's a good one. Let's look at an advanced search. So just to show you, right below the search bar is advanced search. I'm just going to click into that. And this is where we touched on Boolean. If you're comfortable using Boolean, there's also these tips sort of spelled out here as well. This is where you can get a lot more complicated though with your search. More than one term is entered and no operator specified. Terms are searched using and. So that's kind of what we just did, right? The second line implies the use of and. But lots of things you can do. I'm going to search climate change impacts, and we can also, of course, give it a specific place to look for these search. I'm going to leave it anywhere. And then the second line, let's maybe say, yeah, let's go South America. Leave that at anywhere as well. Again, you can do published in a specific body of work. You can still filter by date and then click search. So the results page is going to look the same, but we're just able to get quite a bit more. Oh, wow. So we still have way more results. So I'm going to refine my search here again, because that's just far too many. Let's say, let's do, you can also filter on maybe the author affiliation. So, well, let's leave South America anywhere, and let's also say rainforests. Okay, so that got us down quite a bit, right, to over 7,000, which is still a lot. But then with filters, with date filters, etc., we can filter this down quite a bit. So hopefully that is making sense. I feel like that was maybe a quick overview of advanced search, but important there that you can also, again, I just want to point out, you can save your search. That's really useful with advanced search because you're likely going to be doing these more complicated searches. So let's look again at the questions. I think I did see some. Okay, maybe, would we like to see another search? I think maybe, okay, no, I thought I saw a hand raised as well. That is kind of the main story though with Wiley Online Library, very user-friendly. Again, we looked at how to search within a journal and kind of how to sign up for alerts, submitting an article if you are interested in that. We have lots of training specifically for authors, which I'll talk a little bit about more about. How can we find reviews? Okay, so that's a good question. Do you mean reviews do you mean specifically like journal reviews? So I'll come back to that one. If my institution subscribes to Wiley Search and in which I find an article in JACS, can I access that article or will I also need to subscribe to JACS? So JACS, what does that acronym stand for? I'm sorry, I'm not familiar. My guess would be that you would have to also subscribe to JACS before you could read that article. I'm not aware of an affiliated like Wiley partner. If you don't mind, if you could provide a little more info on the JACS. Oh, Journals of American Chemistry Society. Okay, let's see. Because if Wiley publishes the journal, would it be American? I have Oil Chemist Society. Chemistry or Chemist Society? Let's go chemist. Sorry, I'm going to refine this search. So what I would encourage you to do if we can't find this, is to search directly for the title of the journal on Wiley Online Library. And if we don't publish it, then you probably would need a separate subscription or through your institution. Or the oil, yeah, I'm only seeing Oil Chemist Society. Are there any articles about foreign language teaching or language acquisition? Oh yes, I'm sure there are. Let's go ahead and run a search on that. That's a great question. Foreign language teaching. Oops. Language teaching. I imagine there would be. Yes, great. Great question. Foreign language teaching, bilingual education. So yes, lots here. That's a good games in foreign language teaching. So a lot of these are going to be English language teaching. Yeah, I'll do that one next. Let's refine our search to say specifically English language. Great point. There are a lot of globalization English language teaching. So yeah, the TESOL Encyclopedia of English Language Teaching, that would be a really good body of work for you. Some publications. So yeah, lots of resources. Great question. Lots of resources around English language teaching. I would encourage you to search and kind of play around and refine your search maybe as well. So finding reviews, sorry, I still am maybe I did not mean to gloss over that question, but if you could find a little more info to provide. What is the difference between Wiley Search and Google Scholar Search or ResearchGate? So Google Scholar, I'm not as familiar with ResearchGate, but I know Google Scholar is going to kind of search the web, essentially. It's going to pull from different sources. Wiley Online Library is just going to pull from what Wiley publishes. But the thing to know is that your institution, if you're subscribed to Wiley Online Library, you will definitely have read access to that. Versus perhaps an article from somewhere else, published by something else, another publisher. If you don't have read access to that, then you'd have to pay to access it. It's behind a paywall if it's not published open access. I'm interested in reading and submitting articles on Wiley. Yes, yeah, definitely. We'll talk some more about how to do that as well in another webinar and also today. Is it possible to reach retracted papers? I wonder what you mean by to reach retracted papers. Do you mean, to read retracted papers? Or, I'm not sure if they're retracted from Wiley Online Library, then they would not, once published, then removed. Yeah, they wouldn't be available on the platform anymore that I'm aware of. That's a good question. I think once they're off, they're kind of off. But if you took note of the authors, for example, of a paper that you liked, you could perhaps reach out and sort of network that way. Sorry, that's not a very good answer, but my understanding is once it is taken off, that it is not going to be available for reading. Okay. Thank you so much for the questions. We will have a little bit more time, but while there's a slowdown, I am just going to get us back to the slides. And thank you for your topic suggestions as well. So we've kind of talked about Wiley Online Library. To get into some of the benefits of the platform and what it can do for you in your career, some of these are pretty self-explanatory, right? Can help you look up high quality scientific content related to keywords, to topics, stay up to date, right? We've talked about kind of following reviews, following articles, subscribing to journals. staying up to date with what is published in your area of expertise. You can also discover trends in content that might help define your own research, can help you prepare manuscripts, scientific communications, lectures or presentations, etc., right? I know we have a very broad representation of careers represented today. Citing content, of course, and ultimately advancing your career. But one thing with Wiley Online Library, stringent processes of peer review are in place, so you can be rest assured that you are getting things that are valid, are validly vetted for. The internet has a lot of information, certainly, but not all of it is accurate, peer reviewed. So you will know that with Wiley, there are stringent processes in place for that. So let's talk about some help and training resources where you can go after this webinar and kind of further any information that you need. I encourage you to visit our Success Hub. So we have a lot here, as well as upcoming and on-demand webinars. So I know in the chat we heard that some folks are interested in the author workflow, in submitting their paper to Wiley. Let's go ahead and I'll show you where you can find some webinars on exactly that. So here's our Customer Success Hub. The Wiley Online Library has its full range of sort of training resources here, as well as translated resources for those folks who English might not be your first language. But just to show you the training hub here, we have a user guide, the alert guide. We talked about saved searches or kind of subscribing to journals, accessing remotely, etc. So a lot of things that we talked about today are represented here. And then our webinars, we have a full page just for these. So open access webinars, but I want to call your attention to how to publish, because I think that was sort of an interest topic. So some things on generative AI, super interesting, super hot topic right now in the publishing landscape, as well as peer review, what we kind of talked about and how that can enhance your work as a researcher. Those two are upcoming, but the rest that we have here are on demand. Oh, just kidding. There are some others coming up as well. So scientific writing, speaking of non-native English speakers, if you're interested in this one, as well as communicating research using social media. But definitely some interesting ones on demand as well. Let's see. How to publish open access with Wiley. This is an on-demand one. Asia Pacific only means that that's the time zone it was catered to, but on demand, that doesn't really matter. So here's some things about journals, books, reference works. This is sort of where the Wiley Online Library events will be listed. And then sort of our other products as well. So I do encourage you to check that out. If you download the slides that I linked, all of these are hyperlinked on that PDF as well. So thank you so much for your participation. I would love any other questions. Yeah, interested in the reading and submitting. Any other questions that we have? Anything else that we can revisit in the platform that you would like to see again or kind of review? Anything, hopefully I didn't gloss over anything, but anything that's not clear.
Hey, Mary Helen, if I could just go ahead and add that there is a good author workshop training in the future. So I just wanted to mention it since I'm seeing a lot of comments about like I would like to submit and stuff like that. So there is a webinar, excuse me. There is a webinar and I'm going to post the registration link in the chat, but on April 18th, there's a webinar called How Peer Review Makes You a Better Researcher. So that may be of interest to some people. So I'm going to post that in the chat. Feel free to,
thank you.
Yeah, register for this one. Hold on a second. Let me grab the link. And I will put it in the chat, like I said.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you so much for being here. What are the logical search operators? Great question. Let's revisit the advanced search. So logical, yes, and, or, and not are the Boolean operators. So not, of course, is going to exclude results from anything that it might have touched on. So maybe we want, let's do an example. Usually I have an example of these. What about like viticulture or grape growing? That's a good one. Or maybe education or school, anywhere. Maybe I'm interested in adult education. So I would do not child, if that makes sense. So we're kind of combining them that way. Or is going to expand your search, right? Because we're saying you can pull education from any of these keywords. We can pull school from any of these keywords. But we do not want to include children. So I'll just go ahead and say children. Let's see where that gets us. I also want to point out too, in the advanced search, it's also interesting to search by author affiliation. So maybe your own institution, for example, or someone affiliated with Yale. That's a past one that I've done. Someone affiliated with Harvard, etc. So let's do adult education or school, not children. Let's see where that gets us. And anyone from Harvard. Okay, so quite a few. And then from there, we can kind of refine and narrow down. One thing too, let's see, is there any charge for making PDF or research PDF or accessing content of article? So that's a good question. Depending on your institution's access, there should not be any charge if your institution is subscribed to Wiley Online Library. It gives you read access, and with that comes the PDF access for accessing that full content of the article. Check with your main librarian if you're not sure or if you're encountering a paywall, and they can help you answer that. So hopefully that was a good overview of advanced search. Sorry, I didn't mean to get distracted there. But there's also a good overview of advanced search here, or of the Boolean operators here, that I encourage you to look at. I'm going to put this in the chat. Do I have to be connected to my institute's network to use the online library? That's another good question. I encourage you to check with your librarian on that if you are not sure, because it is going to vary from institution to institution. So you might have to be on the network to get the full access to everything that you're subscribed to. But I encourage you to check with your main librarian. There might be a VPN or remote authentication that you can do if you're not on site as well. Do you have API for remote searching? Tell me what API is again. I'm sorry. There are remote searching options for sure. Again, it's going to depend on your institution's access, whether you perhaps need to be connected through a VPN. But we also have this video on the Success Hub that you can kind of log in and make sure you're getting the most when you are searching remotely. Any other questions? See, we might have a raised hand. Or is that, okay, maybe that was an accident. That's okay. Any other questions? I'm just sort of going to give us all a couple more minutes because I know we still have the time. And also, if you think of anything after the fact, please don't hesitate to reach out. And if I don't know the answer, I can point you in the right direction or get that answer for you. So if there are no more questions, I am happy to give everyone a few more minutes back in their day. If it's all good with everyone to do so. Yeah, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your time. Do be on the lookout for the recording, for a certificate acknowledging your participation here today. But otherwise, we hope to see you at a future webinar. Yeah, thank you again, everyone, for being here, and I wish you a wonderful rest of your day. Take care.